And we're back for another exciting episode of the Creators Collective. And welcome for another fun week. Today is March the 1st, and today we're going to talk about whatever comes to mind, as opposed to what we normally talk about. So, let's actually start off with the fun portion of this project because, Zach, you have been gone for a good chunk of this last week. Why don't you tell us what you've been up to?
I have. So some of you might be familiar with Workbench Con, which I think is a terrible name, but it was a great event. Uh, I feel like every year, the whole like maker YouTube community, whatever you want to call it, have we decided on a name yet? What do we call ourselves?
I have no idea.
We'll just say the YouTube community. We'll say that.
Tubers.
Tubers. So the tubers, I feel like we've at least I've only kind of been involved with stuff for like I'd say a little less than 2 years, but it seems like since I have, seems like every year we kind of pick an event, and that's kind of like the main event that everybody tries to attend. So we all get to meet each other and hang out and stuff. And I feel like last year that was the Atlanta Woodworking Show, which was a lot of fun, and they're also going to be doing that again this year. And I know there's quite a few people coming to that, so I don't want to like undersell that, but this year I really feel like the big event was Workbench Con. I think con is short for convention, and it's essentially geared, exclusively to kind of the YouTube DIY community. So it's not strictly woodworking. It's not like the woodworking show where you walk around and try not to spend all your money and then hang out in the lobby for 2 days. This was really neat. There's a lot of events going on, a lot of sponsors and stuff put on. I think Instructables had like an open bar for everybody, which was a complete awesome mess. there's a handful of people that know how to put them back. So, but that was a lot of fun. The whole event was great, and it was. I mean, there's a lot of value in it, as I think there's 2 or 3, like 2.5 days of events, and a lot of speakers. Ben Ueda, Johnny Brook gave a speech. Brad from Fix This Build That, Chris Salamone.
Jimmy Dresta.
Yeah, like pretty much the who's who of YouTube makers were all there, and there were a lot of everybody kind of had their own talks that they gave at different places. So there's really a ton of information there, and it was really great. So but the best thing for me was really just getting the opportunity to hang out with these people. I mean, if you've ever talked to me before, you know malice I have towards the state of Florida, where I currently reside. So just getting the chance to get out of here and meet some people that are not meet, but just to get to hang out with my friends that I usually am limited to talking to online. It's just refreshing. And anytime I get together with this group, from our community, it's just so inspiring. Like I really, after like hanging out for 2 hours, I'm ready to go back home and like really take everything to the next level. And I'm just really excited to get back and start creating content. It's just super inspiring. It's just, I mean, it's the best community ever. Everybody's trying to help everybody out, and it's a lot of fun. I mean, in my time doing this, I can't name anybody that I've met that weirds me out or that's not a fun person to hang out with. I feel like people that work with their hands have a certain connection to reality that people who don't work with their hands oftentimes don't have. I guess. So, yeah, Workbench Con was incredible. If I think, I mean, I'd say it was definitely a success, and I'm sure they're going to be doing another one next year. So if you guys get the opportunity, definitely look into it next year, because I think that's going to be the big. I think that's going to be the big event from here out that people are
The
going to
new
want to attend.
Atlanta.
Yeah, and I'm sure. I mean, as soon as it's available as soon as I figure out what they're doing next year, I want to be a part of it. So that was a lot of fun.
How's that sculpture coming?
So I finished the sculpture like a week ago. This has been like the craziest month, and I'll get into it in a minute, but just so many things going on. So I finished the sculpture about a week ago, and I don't mean to drop a bomb here, but my mother passed away I found out literally the day before I left to Workbench Con that my mom passed away. And so between that, the sculpture, Workbench Con, I have to leave to Cleveland on Sunday for a deal for Lincoln Electric. So just so much travel and trying to get this sculpture finished and delivered. I'm actually meeting with. Can you guys hear the dog barking or no?
Yeah.
Oh my god! I told my wife. I said if they start barking, you have to put them inside. Hold on, just a second. I don't want that to spoil the show.
Well, you're taking care of that, Will. What you got?
Oh man. Well, I just finished the Live Edge Vanity Cherry Vanity for the commission. That's getting delivered right after this podcast. Is actually in the back of my truck right now. But it's kind of rain. Yeah, it's kind of rainy here in Virginia though, so that's going to be a fun delivery.
Dodging the raindrops.
Yeah. Luckily, I put like, I don't know, 8 coats of armor seal on the top of this thing, so it should be pretty well protected. I just launched a new segment on my YouTube channel called Film School Friday, where I start kind of going through how to shoot more cinematically, and some camera tips and camera settings and just how to make your videos better. And it's geared towards the workshop folk, so the people like us. So it's not just a strictly film school for it being a film school, but I show more, drill press, how to shoot a drill press when it's on, and some real live examples of that. That video, so the video will actually launch tomorrow. I am about to start. Actually, I did start on another Live Edge Vanity. This one should be a lot easier though, because it's basically just the vanity top, and then it'll be held in place just with some cleats along the wall. So I got that glued up, and I need to go over to the client's house and custom fit that to the walls. Man, what else am I working on? I am delivering and installing an oak mantelpiece that it has a drawboard mortise and tenon where it turns a corner in this guy's house. He's actually a friend of mine, a photographer friend of mine.
It's like a little bit of timber framing on a mantle.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And he had this idea, and then he went to Namibia for a month, and now he's back. So we're finishing up that. And the most recent thing that I've been working on is when finishing this the first Live Edge Vanity, I had a kind of a scary table saw incident yesterday.
Yeah.
That was spooky. So it was a one-sided Live Edge slab that I was going to glue together, joint the middle, and then glue it together to make a wider shelf that'll sit recessed under the vanity top. And I had my table saw sled on my table saw, and the end of the slab wasn't square, so I was going to trim up to square up the end, and I was trying to save as much material as possible. And just with wear over time, my sled wasn't fully zero clearance anymore. There's a little slop in the kerf line. And so I was going to trim the edge, which basically turned the offcut into a wedge, which then got lodged in the kerf of the table saw sled between the blade and the sled, and made this awful sound. And with a 3 horsepower motor, I was pretty sure that the blade was going to lock up and throw the sled into my face. But I was able to keep my hands on all the pieces and turn the table saw off with the big safety paddle switch in my foot, like a ninja. And then I went and changed my pants. Yeah, actually, so the whole thing locked up, and I actually had to use a mallet to beat on the sled to get it free of the blade. Yeah, it was pretty spooky, and it's one of my most liked posts on Instagram.
Yeah, if you guys haven't seen that, go check out his Instagram page. The
I haven't
picture on
seen
that's
that
like, no.
Yeah. So anyway, that's what I've got going on. But back to you, Zach. Now that you're
All right, now that I have the dogs taken care of. So I can't remember where I was at, but anyway, moral of the story is between like travel, bad news, more travel, finishing work up. It's just been kind of a mess. I mean, it's just a lot to juggle. It's a lot to deal with. I was really actually, I think it was the best thing after hearing that my mom passed away, just to actually be able to get out of town for a bit and hang out with people that are positive and supportive. I can't really think of, a better way to kind of deal with that situation. And it was a good time. So, um, let's see, what else do I have in my show notes here? Yeah, so the sculpture, I'm actually meeting up with um, a professional photographer today, since I'm definitely not one of them, to get some pictures taken of the sculpture. So we're actually going to take it to like downtown Tampa and get some pictures like on the city streets. And I don't know, I just told him, I'm like, you're a photographer, like what do you think is best? And that's where he wants to do it. So that's kind of exciting because I really want to have a good thumbnail shot. One of the things that was talked about a lot at Workbench Con was that, I mean, I'm exaggerating, but make a crappy video, but have a really good thumbnail, because I mean, that's, that's really, I mean, it's kind of the judging a book by its cover thing. Like, it can be the most amazing book ever, but if nobody picks it off the shelf, who knows? Nobody's going to know about it. So, my new strategy is keep up with the, but have a really good cover on it so that people click on it. So no, but seriously though, Chris Salamoni and Mike Montgomery, they had a talk that was it was about design, but what I liked about it is it was more about, it wasn't about like project design. It was kind of about designing your brand, I guess. I mean, that's not how they had it labeled, but that's kind of what I took away from it, as far as like, just, how you present your products and your videography and all that stuff, which was very valuable to me. And so I'm really looking forward to stepping everything up. So yeah, it was a good event, and a lot of takeaways. So I'm really excited to get these pictures taken and hopefully get the video posted before I go to Cleveland on Sunday.
Cool.
That's my goal.
very cool. How about you, James?
Well, I finished up the saw vise, which has been drawing out much longer than it should have, but it's done and functional, and I'm really, really happy with how it came out. So the final video on that should be out about 11 o'clock Central Time today. So I'm kind of interested to see. It's it's not a tool that most people need. It's kind of thing it's like only some hand tool people are even going to use it. So it's not for the masses, but it's kind of a fun build altogether. Other than that, I was up at the local Midwest Tool Collectors Association meet, which if any of you have a hard time finding hand tools at a decent price, the Midwest Tool Collectors Association, look it up at MWTCA.org. They have local meets all around the Midwest, East Coast. They're trying to get them all around the United States and the world. So they're well worth it. But if you imagine like a gymnasium completely filled wall to wall with tables, and on every table are hundreds of hand tools, and they're all for sale. It's like, a hand tool paradise. So yeah, if you haven't heard of it, definitely go take a look at it. It's one of my goals to try and make that a little bit more mainstream, because it's run by the older crowd, and they're not very good with online and social media, so no one knows about it. So I'm trying to get the word out. Other than that, I'm getting ramped up for the glue test. I actually purchased everything but the lumber. Most of the glues. I'm now up to 30 different glues I'm going to be trying.
Whoa.
and every glue I'll have 4 different tests, and then in each test I'll have 10 iterations of every glue in that test.
I don't think
So
anybody in the world other than maybe you and Matthias would ever have the patience to do something that thorough. That sounds like the worst. I don't think anybody could pay me enough money to record that video. That sounds like the worst thing ever.
yeah, over 1,000 little pieces of wood need to be glued to other little pieces of wood,
That's
and then
terrible.
over 1,000 individual tests of breaking them off. So it'll be
Nope.
a crazy amount of data that, because I've had a lot of people asking me, why are you doing this? Because other people have done wood tests.
We need like a segment in our show that's called like Only James. on this week's Only James. James glues together 1,000 pieces of wood to test out 30 different types of glues.
You never know until you have the data. So you got to have the data, and the only way to get the data is to do it right.
But I feel like we need James's brother to do like an intro for that segment, like Deep Thoughts with Jack Candy, like the old SNL. Like Only James.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and I also went and purchased another 100 feet of board feet of white oak. I found another Craigslist, and I probably should have purchased more. He has probably another 3,000 or 4,000 board feet of white oak for 75 cents a board foot.
Whoa, is it dry?
Yep, it's been air dried for 16 years.
Holy moly!
Every now and then I come across those on Craigslist. I watch Craigslist every day, have notifications for it. And about once a year, I'll get some notification from someone who inherited a barn full of lumber and they're just getting rid of it. So I had one that I purchased once. I got about 400 board feet for 50 cents.
Those are like the gold mine. Like every now and then, like I don't look at it very much these days, but like the subreddit woodworking, let me start over. The woodworking subreddit, you'll see like the occasional post that's just like found old barn with like 2,000 feet of black walnut, 3 truckloads for $200. It's sickening.
Yeah, that's awesome. Sorry, I'm like geeking out over 75 cents a board foot for white oak. Is any of it quarter sawn?
It's completely random. It's flat sawn, so every now and then you come across a quarter sawn piece from the middle.
Okay, all right. Right.
Most of it is like 4-inch to 6-inch width, so there's nothing massive, but it's pretty clear stuff. So really nice wood, actually.
I can tell my wife is cooking a bagel in the other room because she always burns the crap out of them.
Is she cooking a bagel?
Bagel. I think you're supposed to say bagel.
Oh wow!
What color is the bagel?
What color is the bagel? All
right. Zach, you came back from Workbench Con and immediately bought a new camera.
Yeah, it's true. I did. Yeah, that was that was like, I feel impulsive, but I also feel happy that I was impulsive. So, after, there's so like, how do I have so many thoughts that are trying to come out of my mouth at the same time? Yeah, I mean, it was really inspiring. Like I said, the Chris Salamone and Mike Montgomery from Modern Builds. I feel like Mike Montgomery needs to be a country singer with that name. Like anytime I forget his name, I'm like, what's a good country singer name? And then I remember. But yeah, I mean, they had some neat stuff. Just very basic stuff. But I think it's really important to have like categories in your mind. And they just kind of broke things up to where you can, have like organized thinking as far as like, well, how do I want the shot? Do I want it to be close up? Do I want it to be, these things that are incredibly obvious, but you don't always think about when you're trying to set up your shot. So I really kind of want to take things up just a little bit and not just be recording the back of my head as I often do in my shots. I just set the camera up and I'm like, oh, that looks great. And then I walk right in front of it and I don't even think. So
I'll be talking about that on my new Film School Friday segment.
I am super excited about that. So I've actually been, I mean, I'm sure a lot of people are like this too, but when I get interested in something, like I kind of go down the rabbit hole, and I haven't really I've never really been too interested in like photography or filming or that sort of thing. I mean, not that I'm disinterested, but it's not something that I've really dumped a lot of my attention into. And I'm starting to see how it could be fun. And I think that's the answer. I always viewed it before as like, well, the project is the thing and recording it is something that I have to do. And now thinking about it artistically and thinking about, well, how can I show this better, and how can I convey more through the medium of how I film it and how I set up my shots and all of that stuff. So that actually kind of making the recording part of the artistic process, I can actually see that as that's fun and that's interesting. And I never really viewed it like that before. I just viewed it as, well, I'm just going to record me building this crap and,
point a camera and hit play.
Exactly. So I'm really excited to, for my projects here out. Now the sculpture was all recorded. It's actually interesting if anybody watches my stuff. So I recorded everything. I've always just had the Canon Rebel T3, which is super dated, but it's a solid camera. Kind of a, what do you call it? Like a beginner's DSLR, probably. But I have that, and then a GoPro that I use for my time-lapse shots. And the sculpture I just recorded the way I've always recorded everything. But now, like with the mind for editing, I'm trying to I'm getting so many ideas, and I have the wrong footage for those ideas. But this will be something when I put the video out. So I got that. I ordered a Canon 6D, and I wanted to have some really good shots to start the video out with. So I actually re-recorded myself drawing the sculpture out, which is actually what I did before I started it. I drew the idea out, but you'll see the difference in shots from when you watch the very beginning of the video. Like those first handful of shots are all on the 6D, just of me drawing in the kitchen. And I'm so excited with the way they turned out. But then it goes right back into my old style of recording and stuff. But from here on out, I really want to put a lot more attention and focus into filming. So I'm super excited. It couldn't have been at a more perfect time, William, for you to start the film school Friday. Because one of the things that I've been thinking about is, I mean, nobody really talks about that. And I feel like for our community, the resources for filming what we do, they're not out there. There's not a lot of information. I mean, so much of it is general, or it's it's
there's a huge difference between the photographers, how they use a camera, and the guy with a camera in the shop.
Well, there's a huge gap that I think you're about to fill. And you have, as far as the resources for us out there, you have your photography stuff, which a lot of it's applicable, but the basics are applicable, but I feel like there's a lot that isn't applicable to what we do, because most of that's portraits or, wedding photography or landscapes. And some of it carries over, but not all of it. And and then you have the cinematography or the videography stuff, which is super cool. And there's actually, I was going to mention it in one of the things that I've been listening to. There's a podcast called TWDP, which is the Wandering
Director of Photography
podcast. There's a lot of cool information in there, but all of that, again, all of that videography and that kind of stuff, most of that is geared towards $40,000 cameras and commercial production and movie production. So there's some ideas there, but it's not stuff that's really accessible to what we're doing. So I feel like with what you're doing with the Film School Friday, I think that's going to be a big hit. And I think I'm really excited to see what happens there. So
cool. Well, thanks, man.
Yeah, that's one of the things that's kind of new to me.
I've got an exercise for you, Zach, and this doesn't necessarily need to go on your channel or anything. It's just a good skill building exercise. Yeah, right. Mr. I run 30 miles a day. No, so Zach, it's called the Boring Room Challenge. So you have your camera and whatever lenses you have, and you have to sit in a boring room. And it has to be apparent, according to the rules of the challenge, it has to be like, not obscene. So I'm sure you can make anything interesting in a room if you have enough stimuli. But the boring room challenge is you sit in a room and you try to make a story about the things in the room and make it interesting. So take something really mundane and make a story out of it just with your filming style.
Okay.
So, and it just really helps with editing and building tension with the music and whatever emotions you want. So it could be about a pen. And can you create suspense with a pen on a desk in a room, that kind of thing.
I like that. I was thinking it'd be kind of cool if could we do like something that would be like a hashtag Instagram thing, and it would just be a picture. That way everybody can kind of try and I'd actually, you know what? Like, I really like where this is all going. Like, I feel like we should add a segment to the show that's like William's film challenge or photo challenge.
All right, we could do that. Yeah,
Let's
we'll
have
have
like a Williams photo challenge.
So what's our homework for this week, Will?
Yeah, and we have a week to post the theme. So what's the one this week? We got to take a picture. I like that challenge, but let's do something with a picture so that we can put it on Instagram.
All right, with a picture. All right.
And
let me think about
it. In the live chat, like we'll circle back to this in a few minutes. If anybody has an idea or a theme, put it in the live chat and we'll bring it up in the next like 5-10 minutes. But I like this. Like, one of the things that I'm really excited about with this camera is it has Wi-Fi. So I can take a picture, connect to it with my phone, download the image, and put it on Instagram, which is going to be great for me. So yeah, I'm excited to like actually start doing that. So let's get some ideas and figure out a hashtag or a topic that we can do for this next week, and we'll try and get one every week.
All right. Cool. So
it could even just be an object, like photograph, like a hand plane or I don't know, something.
That's a good one. Does everybody have a hand plane? I know. James, do you have a hand plane?
I might have to run to the store.
All right. Yeah. How do we make photographing a hand plane?
We need a reward.
A breakdancing.
Whoever wins, like whichever one gets the most. First, we need a hashtag. Second, we need a reward that we can give people. I don't know what it is yet. But
let's discuss this a little later, unless you got something right now.
Yeah, I don't have anything right now. I'm just filling.
I was going to say the most creative way to photograph a hand plane. Most creative photo wins something.
Okay, I like it. Is that going to be, what's the hashtag?
Stupidest use for a hand plane. That was in the live chat. Hashtag
a rocket onto it.
All right, we'll come back to that and we'll announce the hashtag later.
Keep throwing your ideas in the live chat. We'll pick one of them.
Cool. Well, let's answer a couple questions here. We got one from Yonatan24, who's always providing the questions for us. He just came across a pile of plexiglass scraps. What would you make with plexiglass this thick? Around 1 inch.
So I saw Paul Jackman do an awesome table saw, zero clearance table saw insert. 1 inch thick might be a little too thick for that, but it was awesome, and I've been wanting to make one for a while. So that was the first thing that came to mind when I read that question. But I don't know, Zach, what do you think?
Sorry, I was not even listening.
What would you make with a bunch of pieces of plexiglass an inch thick?
What would I do with plexiglass an inch thick? Well, the first thing that came to mind was shoot bullets at it and see if they go through, but that's probably not helpful. But that's what I'd really want to do.
Especially if you get low velocity that will rest inside and turn it into art.
Yeah,
that'd be cool.
Yeah. Yeah, bring it to Jimmy DeResta's house, have him shoot his guns at it, and then auction it off on eBay. And then retire.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I think I would probably do some surface etching and then put LEDs around the edge lighting into the edge of the plexiglass, so that any of the surface etchings then glows, and you could use it like a sign.
Ooh.
I've thought about actually doing that in like a tabletop insert, and etching from underneath, so it's still smooth on top, but you still see the etching underneath. That might be a fun game.
There's a lot you can do with it. So, you know, I know
Make a
that
fish tank.
there's some stuff called I can't remember the name of it. It's like, is it weld bond or something like that? That you can use on like plastic and acrylics and plexiglass, and it literally fuses the stuff together. Like it's not like a glue. It actually like melts the stuff together. I can't remember the name of it. I think it's weld bond, but I'm sure it's easy to find if you search for it. But I think it'd be cool to do some sort of like little furniture, a little table or something out of it. Like Philip Stark, who is one of my favorite designers. He had a chair that he made out of acrylic, I think called the Ghost chair. And I'm sure you guys have seen like the cheap knockoffs, but the whole chair is like see-through. So, I mean, that just kind of gives you an idea. And if you look at like the original, you can imagine taking the backrest off and you'd actually have a really cool table. So I don't know.
I think when I come across odd things like that, I tend to put them in the shop and just kind of keep them in the back of my brain as I run into new projects. Often those are the pieces that pop up and say, "Oh, that's where I can use it."
Yeah.
Cool. Well, Andrew Jacobsen has a two-part question. How often do I need to recharge my strop? I noticed that after a couple passes, it will be streaked and hardened and glossy. And number two, I can run my finger across the strop and it will have ridges. Is that okay, or does it need to be flat like a stone to be?
That's a good question.
James question.
Yeah.
For me, when you get into strops, everyone's going to have their own opinion and their own idea. Some people like to use the smooth, buffed side of the leather. Some people like to use the rough side. Some people, like Paul Sellers, like to use a very soft, rough side, and that very soft, rough side will never get fuzzy. It will never get smooth and matted. The other problem with that really rough side is that it tends to get rid of the compound, and you have to recharge it more often. Whereas if you use the smooth side, in some cases you charge it once and not have to ever charge it again in your lifetime, um, or like once every year, because it holds on to it so well. And so you're going to get a thousand opinions on there. In my case, I use a rough side of a very hard leather. And the rough side then will then get smooth, glossy, and matted down, and that's where I keep it. The other thing that comes into mind is what type of compound are you using? If you're using a compound that has a lot of wax in it for keeping it coagulated, that will become glossy and stay glossy. In which case, then there's really no problem with it. Just keep using it because there's always some of the abrasive compound near the top of the wax. And that's usually what I end up doing. I have a very waxy compound. I actually got it from Harbor Freight, 3 years ago, and I've still been just barely using the piece. And my strop, even though I'm using the rough side of it, ends up being a glossy surface. And yes, if you do like run your fingers or nick it with the corner of a blade and put a groove through that, that's not going to be a problem because the next time you use it, it's going to mat it back down. And because you're putting pressure on the blade, even if there's a groove or anything in that, it's still going to be flat across underneath the blade when the pressure of that blade actually pushes the leather down at that spot. So no, that in my opinion, that is not something to worry about, to think about. Just keep going. If you can see compound on the surface, then it's still good to go. You don't need to add any more. And even to that point, the traditional way is, especially with like a straight razor, the very last thing you do is just perfectly smooth leather without any buffing compound on it, just rubbing it on the leather to get that final gloss smooth. So that's my thought on the matter. You guys have anything more?
No.
Nope. I think you got it.
Yeah.
Cool.
I personally use the nubuck side of the strop, but That's just because I found that I like it better, but no particular reason. It just works.
Yeah, I have one strop set that I keep on the bench where I have a rough side with compound and then a smooth side without compound. And so sometimes when I'm carving to freshen up the blade, I'll rub it on the compound side and then I'll take it over to the no compound smooth side and give it that final shine because that can really buff them up and make them look pretty.
Nice. All right. Well, I want to get to the joke of the week because I thought this was fantastic.
Yeah, since you completed this, why don't you present it?
Yeah. So this was shared to us on Instagram by Hammer Bunny Workshop. A chainsaw and a circular saw are sitting on the couch. The chainsaw says to the handsaw, "I said I love you, Kim." To which she replies, "And I heard you." Humiliated, Troy vowed his next relationship would be with a reciprocating saw. Really? That nothing, Zach?
I think I missed something. I think I was mentally checked out for the first 5 words, and I think it corrected it for me. I don't know. Like, I feel like I could have faked a laugh, and you guys wouldn't have known. But I don't believe in that.
Oh man, I especially thought that one was awesome. I guess you have to see the illustration too. That was.
Oh, okay. I get it. Reciprocating. Okay. All right.
He who laughs last usually had to have it explained.
I didn't need an explanation. I just needed to think about what I heard.
Well,
okay.
what are you watching or reading then?
I just
Besides
found
these kind
I just found Measured Workshop, and specifically, he made a marking knife out of a twist drill bit and dipped the non-pokey bit in Plasti Dip to make it easier to hold when you're using your marking knife, and it just looked like beautifully simple. And now I want to make one.
fun.
Yeah, I've also been binge watching Britannia, which is about the Romans in trying to invade the Celts. And I just finished season 1, and it stopped on a cliffhanger, and I was like, "Oh!" And there's no season 2, and I'm really bummed.
Sounds like a fun one.
Yeah, how about you, James?
No season 2, or it just hasn't come out yet?
I don't know. I have to look into it. It was an Amazon original, so I don't know if they just did it and like, or if they're actually working on a season 2, if they're going to release it. But
cool. I'll have to look that up.
Yeah, cool.
Well, I've been watching Practical Engineering. He did a video. Whoop, let me out. He did a video on the way different materials stretch and compress through heat changing, and it was kind of interesting to see. We think about wood movement quite a bit in what we're doing about the humidity changes and temperature changes of how wood will expand and contract. And so then this video was about how other things do that, like steel and concrete, and how engineering works around those items to alleviate those problems. So it was kind of a fascinating video, but I definitely watch Practical Engineering all the time. He has a way of explaining things of why in the world would an engineer do that, and he explains it very well and makes it learnable. So yeah, I like Practical Engineering.
Cool. How about you, Zach?
I've actually, believe it or not, been watching your videos and Laura Kampf's videos.
Oh, nice. Nice. Laura,
go ahead.
I was going to say, Laura does an amazing job at telling a story with painter's tape.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, she doesn't use painter's tape. She uses spike tape.
Oh, she uses tape in general and Sharpies.
Yeah, we'll go with that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think one of the things is that we're like almost towards the end of the our script here, or outline. Yeah, I really think we should introduce like a little videography section in our podcast, because I think there's a lot of people that would be interested in that, and I know I'm interested in it. And you know, I don't really know much, but yeah, I think we ought to do that. So I think it'd be neat too.
Well,
I've been
then
trying to
let's
look
do this
for.
for next week. Those of you who want to join in, shoot a interesting picture of a hand plane and then tag Creators Collective.
Yeah.
And, we'll take a look at
Well,
those.
let's figure out a hashtag. I was looking on Instagram. That's probably why I missed the joke.
Sure,
We
that's
could
why.
do- Yeah, that's my excuse.
Well, if they just hashtag Creators Collective, then it'd be easier to find the current one.
What if we did? Is there a CC podcast? Because I hate like typing in hashtags is probably one of the most frustrating experiences in my life because there's no autocorrect, and I guess I have fat thumbs, so like every word I type is wrong. CC. See if there's a CC podcast.
Yes, there's CC podcast.
Is that us?
Concore podcast.
Okay.
No.
How about CC hand plane?
Or CC challenge, because that way we could use one hashtag for every.
Okay, yeah. Can we look up
We
CC
like that?
challenge?
Just the Creators Collective. That's a big one. I don't know.
Let's see. Nope.
Creator.
No one has
CC
used CC challenge.
All right, CC challenge.
CC
be
challenge.
CCH.
That is our. We need a catchy title for our little film corner. Somebody can come up with that. So yes, the challenge for this week is to take the most what just interesting or like
The most
emotional or like what's the what's our criteria here?
Ooh, if it's emotional, I've got a good idea.
Let's do that, because I think like this is one of the things that I'm thinking about, because I don't want to talk in my videos. I just don't want to do it. I don't like listening to myself. I don't like recording myself. So I mean, one of the things that I think I'm missing is like, and this is what I've been missing with like filming and recording and stuff is, I have an emotional connection with the stuff that I'm building, like obviously, and I think everybody does. But what I am not doing with my filming is conveying that message whatsoever. It's literally just some dude moving fast, putting stuff together. And I feel like that's one of the things I really want to figure out how to improve on is trying to, through that filming, create that sense of emotion. Because that's really that's what gets people to share videos. That's what makes people feel stuff. And I mean, that's, I feel like that's what you need to do with your filming. And this is a new revelation for me. It's so obvious, but I've just never thought about it before. So yeah, I think like I don't know how you could create emotion with a picture of a hand plane, but I think.
All right, how about this?
Or a
why don't we just say an interesting photo of a hand plane using only like household items? So you can't use any professional strobes or flashes, but you can bring over, say, a lamp or a little LED light or something to change your lighting, but no pro lighting gear.
Okay. I mean, I would even be interested to see what it would look like with pro lighting gear. I don't think many of us have that. I guess you do, but
I do. I'm trying to make this accessible to everyone.
Okay.
Sounds good. So post your pictures and put the hashtag of CC challenge.
Yeah. And the one with the most likes, I don't know what we're going to do for a reward.
Well, we can each pick our own favorite and comment them.
Okay.
Get your name shouted out on the podcast.
Yeah, we'll do that for a shout out. Like if we'll each pick our favorite, and I'm actually really excited about this. This is going to be awesome.
Cool. All right. Yeah,
you get a shout out.
Now we have homework too.
Yes, I like it.
Cool.
All right, I'm going to try and get mine posted today. I'm excited.
Zach, what is your product or tool of the week then?
So my
don't
product,
say professional lighting equipment.
I don't have any of that.
Canon 60.
Yeah, well, actually, you know what I'm going to say? I'm just going to say a notebook. I know it sounds ridiculous.
How Laura Kampf of you.
What's that?
How Laura Kampf of you.
Does she like notebooks?
Yeah.
So yeah, so I started keeping a lot, and it's funny. So one of the things I got a lot of comments about at Workbench Con. I haven't even done a video. I just like had a picture of this little notebook that I made on my Instagram like 6-7 months ago, and I had so many people that were like, "Do you have that notebook you made on you?" And it's literally just a notebook. I usually have a pen in that little slot right there, but it's just a notebook with like the field notes thing in it. And every morning, this was a total game changer for my life. I try and sit down for 10 minutes with my coffee or whatever, and I just write down what I want to get accomplished for the day. And like being able to have something that I can check off and reference, because it's so easy, especially when you get a lot of stuff going on, to forget what you need to do. Like it's kind of ridiculous that you can't remember 5 or 6 things, but having them written down for me is a huge help. And plus, when I get ideas, or if I'm out and about meeting people and need to get a contact information, and and they don't have a business card, it's incredibly handy to have something to write on and something to write with on you. So that is my tool of the week. And
Cool.
let me see, I'll just put a link to the field notes in the show notes if you want to share that. So
Cool.
yeah, get a notebook, keep it on you.
What you got, Will?
This week I have the bargain box of sandpaper from Klingspor's Woodworking, and that's woodworkingshop.com, I think. And it is, you can get a 10 or 20 pound box of random offcuts from their larger rolls, from when they're fitting their machines, and you can get grits. Like I've got grits all the way up to 600 grit, and it's like 20 or 30 bucks. And I bought it a year ago, and I still have more than I know what to do with. But like working on this live edge vanity top and sanding in between coats of finish, grabbing some 400 grit paper off of the roll and just hand sheets, and then lightly sanding it, and you're not spending a fortune on like the high grit hook and loop discs, or the 5 sheets or whatever you get of sandpaper when you go to the big box store. So it's just an incredible value, especially if you're a turner. Like when you're standing on the lathe. I have like hundreds and hundreds of feet of this stuff, of linear feet of this stuff. So that's my tool of the week. Favorite product.
20 bucks. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's like the best deal like I've ever found.
10 pounds of wow.
Yep. So yeah, how about you, James?
I have to go with a wooden tap and die set. For the saw vise, I wanted to make the actual clamping vise with a wooden screw, and I love using wooden screws. They're so much easier than people think, and they have an extreme amount of pressure that you just don't expect from wood. So they're a ton of fun to make, a ton of fun to use, and yeah. A wooden tap and die set is a fantastic thing, especially when you're getting into like the big sizes, inch and a half. They're fun.
Well, right
So
on,
that's about it
guys.
for the week. I want to say a huge thank you to everyone in the live chat. We had a good group on here today, and it was a lot of fun and some good questions. So thank you for that. If you'd like to join us for the live chat, you can do that every Thursday at 10 a.m. Eastern time, and we're looking forward to seeing you there.
Oh, yeah, I should also make note as well before we go. There is, if you guys are in the Cleveland area, or if you're attending the Lincoln Electric event, there's going to be a meetup Monday night, and I forgot about it. Johnny Brooks, kind of the logistics guy. So if you're in the area, or you're going to be in the area, feel free to shoot me a message on Instagram or something, so that we can meet up. So thanks for reminding me, Brian,
Cool.
in the live chat.
I might have to drive down for that. It's only
Do
about
it.
3-4 hours for me. 4 or 5 hours.
Are you going to run or drive?
Another mode of transportation? Cool.
I feel like you're going to build a Flintstone car soon.
Well, thank you everyone for joining us. It has been another good week, and we're looking forward to seeing you here next time. So until next time, have a wonderful day.
Later.
You guys.